Hi guys, welcome to day 29 of 31 days of live life coaching with the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about how to embody your authentic self and live it in your day-to-day life. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm Dulce. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dulce. I'm a life coach, hypnotherapist, and YouTuber based out of here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Hi, Taylor. Thank you so much for watching. And I'm waiting for everything to just kind of load up, so it's going to be a little slow. They're getting there. Hi, Becca. Beautiful. I can't see the comments, so make sure you guys leave some comments below if you have any questions or anything I can help you with. Like I said, today we're going to be diving into how to embody your authentic self. So before we get into that, I really want to say thank you to everybody who's showed up for these live life coaching sessions. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you guys being with me through this journey, and I appreciate all the marketing department and Casey and Taylor and Becca and Carmen and Brian and everyone who had a hand in this. Thank you guys so much for this. It's been awesome, and I hope you guys enjoyed it just as much as I did. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I think embodying our authentic selves is something that us SWIHA people can all agree we do pretty well. Hi Ari, thanks for joining. We definitely, I feel, show up as our authentic selves, do the best we can every day, but let's be real, it's not always the easiest thing to do because typically we're the ones who are a little different within our small little communities, whether that's your family or, you know, your tribe. Typically that's a little bit of a disconnect. We're typically the ones who are pioneering the authenticity and showing up as who we truly are. This weekend I had the honor of taking Reiki with Astarius, Casey, and Nacho, and it was wonderful. And that's one of the themes we really talked about, is embodying your authentic self and really recognizing that you are an expression of Source. Recognizing that when you show up as the person that you know you're meant to be, you're really honoring Source because you're allowing it to express itself through you. And a lot of times we forget about that and we disconnect from the idea that who I am is who you are and we are all connected. So really staying conscious of that and staying in tune with that authentic self, that Source self, really helps us recognize that whatever it is that comes up, it's what's up for us. So let's love it, let's honor it, and let's move forward with it. Thank you, Becca. Hi, Hope. Hi, Christina. Thank you guys so much for being here. So, like I said, it doesn't mean it's always easy when we embody our authentic self. Just because we know who we truly are, it still gets a little scary in our day-to-day life to show up, to speak our truth and be who we are. So it's really important that we recognize if this does happen, if we're finding that it's difficult for us to show up as who we truly know we are, express ourselves authentically, say the things we truly feel that we want to say. It might be because there might be a disconnect. What is your internal chatter from? Whenever you're feeling like you're not in alignment with your authentic self, my invitation to you would be to ask yourself, what is my mental environment like? We have to understand that we really need to support ourselves in flourishing and showing up as who we truly are. And it's really difficult to do that if the thoughts in our minds are very negative and they're not supportive of who we are. So a lot of times, like I said, we are the pioneers of embodying our true selves, living from a heart-centered space and really showing up. And people are afraid of that. We live in a very, unfortunately, the times right now seem to be very disconnected. The internet has really connected us, but it's also really disconnected us from our emotional body and really from the truth of who we are. So being somebody who is highly sensitive is not necessarily the norm in our society, but I feel that as we continue to progress, we'll see that shifts a little more and a little more, and eventually we'll have the outer support, but that definitely has to start from within. So it's really important to honor what you're saying to yourself. Whenever you do feel inspired to show up as yourself, recognize what is the naysaying that comes up, or what is the support that comes up. Taylor just said, okay, Becca said, serving as a vessel of great spirit, life source. Oh, yes. Yes, we deliver light, love, and light from source through our authentic expression. By being ourselves, we give others permission to be themselves. Yes, so true, Taylor. And I feel like we don't recognize that a lot of times. We feel like we'll cause disconnection. Sometimes we're afraid of that. But today my invitation is for you to lead with love instead of leading with fear. What would that look like for you if you showed up as your authentic self? Who is your authentic self? Let me know in the comments below. Hi, Christina. Hey, Dana, welcome. Thank you. Beautiful. These comments are taking a little bit to load, so let's just move on for that. So the way that we really get clear about our internal environment is we want to observe ourselves. We don't want to be so attached to what it is we're coming up with. We're all going to have feelings. Feelings are going to come up for us. And sometimes it can be a cellular memory, or sometimes it's excitement that we mislabel, and then we stop ourselves from really moving forward. So my invitation is to observe your thoughts. And really, a big shocker here, I'm going to invite you to befriend your ego. A lot of people in the spiritual community talk about how the ego is the shadow side of things, and I believe that it is, but every shadow aspect also has light in it. So understanding that whatever it is that ego has to say is just, it's just a thought. Like in Life Coaching Weekend, I'm sure you guys will know, and in the entire 100-hour certification, we talk a lot about how you can just observe your thoughts by when they come up, being like, oh, that's a thought, and not necessarily attaching any meaning to that. A lot of suffering comes from our attachment. So recognizing that we can be the observer, honor our feelings, but we don't have to attach to them and assign any meaning to it. Taylor said, my authentic self is passionate and uses humor as a tool for connection. I love that, Taylor. And we're going to go into that a little bit more too, because I have a powerful exercise, because that's really important. Laughter and, joy really breaks up the density of fear. So taking ourselves more lightly. One of the things Astaria said a lot this weekend is angels fly because they take themselves so lightly. So just loosening up and recognizing that whatever is what is. And if you can't do anything to change it, then let's change our attitude around it. Wayne Dyer said that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that's truly true. So I really invite you to look at your ego like your funny amigo. That's what I always see. In my mind, I know that this is going to be unconventional, but in my mind, my ego is like my Kanye West. We can all relate to yes, you're great, whatever, but calm down. You know what I mean? Some of the things they say are just so outrageous. So recognizing that whatever thoughts come up, it's just a thought. You don't have to give it any power. It's expressing something that has to do with your life, and you want to honor that, but you don't have to attach to that. So Ari said, self-supported and speaking to yourself with love and encouragement. Yes, it's so important. Dana said, yes, integrate the ego. I agree. Your ego is your funny amigo. Yes, I love that. I always say that because your ego is going to be with you. And that's a part of the human experience. And instead of making that, wrong or making that something that we want to get rid of, my invitation with expressing your authentic self is to love every part of you. Take those parts of you that may say some things that are a little bit ridiculous, but instead of saying that's ridiculous, let's move past that and transcend that. Just laughing at that and being like, okay, just putting some humor into the situation, and it invites that part of you to really come and feel loved. And when we're embodying our authentic self, it's important that we love every part of us. That's really how we transcend it. A lot of times we're afraid that if we go somewhere, we're going to see something we don't like. But that's because we don't recognize that truly we are love. We are just a spark of infinite source. So if you do have a negative thought, or you do have any kind of thing that comes up that's a limiting belief, exploring that, going further in that, and then transcending that, you'll notice if you do go in there and explore it, that you'll transcend it and that there was always light in there. Let's see some of these. Love this so much. Look at your ego as your funny amigo. Thanks, Becca. Yes, Kanye West is mine, like I said. But let's go into that. And also Fifi, which I'll tell you guys, or no, Lele. I'll tell you guys a little more about Lele in a little bit. I'm liking that you guys like that. Hi, Jamie. Yes, you're here. I see you. Acknowledge the dark side, Becca says, to embrace the light. We can honor our humanness and yet focus on serving through our highest selves, our spirit. It's so beautiful, Becca, so true. And also recognizing that our highest self and us showing up as our best is going to change from moment to moment, and being okay with that. Recognizing that we're always yoked with spirit, we're always one, we're always showing up as who we are. And whether or not we want to acknowledge it, we have that spark of source within us. I have a quote that I really, really love, which is, remember that you are responsible for the energy that you bring into your life. So really honoring that responsibility and noticing that whether or not you are intentional about what energy you're bringing, that energy is creating motion. That energy is attracting other things like it into your experience. So being really mindful of what it is that you want to attract in your experience. That's why I asked you guys, who is your authentic self? Because once you're clear on that, you can show up as that. Like Taylor said, that her authentic self uses laughter and adds light into a situation. That's important for us to know, because if anything happens and you notice you start getting, really dense energy or feeling really heavy about things, you can just ask yourself, is this in alignment with who I truly know I am and who I want to show up as, and kind of redirect. We're all going to have feelings, but we don't have to let those feelings lead us. When we are conscious of who we truly are, we can choose to summon that part of ourselves and call it forward. So, Brian Gray, I just love to laugh at the ego and embrace your authentic self. Yes, that's beautiful. Me too. Like envisioning Jesus as the carpenter and a healer. Yes, Becca shared a beautiful story with me today that I want to share with you guys for a moment, which was, we were talking about, being a light worker and being a healer and really doing this kind of work from a heart-centered space and showing up consistently and doing it every day. And, a lot of the spiritual community nowadays has a lot of, there's some kind of like icky feelings about feeling like, why do I still have to, take time to build my business? Well, I feel like this is my divine calling. I feel like my authentic self is called to heal, is called to help others, is called to support people in embodying who they truly are. Why can't I do this full time? And Becca reminded me, Jesus was a carpenter. Jesus had his day job where he worked on wood, and then he had his passion and his calling, which was to go out and heal people. And eventually, after he continued to do that and stood in his power, I'm sure eventually, in today's terms, he went full time and was able to do that. But the entire time, Jesus knew who he was. He knew that he was a healer. He knew he had a message to share with people. And he showed up and he did that. And he had his trade and he had his calling, and eventually those two merged, like always naturally happens. But taking those faithful steps, like the Buddhist tradition says, chopping the wood and carrying the water is an essential part of that. And recognizing that, sometimes we're going to have to chop that wood and carry that water. And That's a part of the authenticity of knowing who are you when you step into yourself and do that. Who are you showing up as? Are you, carpentering and are really happy listening to spiritual music or things that help you grow and showing up as, your light and who you truly are? Or is there negativity attached to that? Are you resistant to your current experience? And that's a really big part of showing up as your authentic self, is showing up and loving every part of you. There's going to be some times where you're just having a bad day, and that's just a normal part of life, and your shadow is going to show up a lot more predominantly than it will in other times. But loving that part of you and still choosing to not let that run your day, still taking ownership for who you are and being like, maybe today I just talk to less people, or maybe today I just, have a really yummy lunch to make myself feel better. Maybe today I just breathe really deeply. Whatever it is that it is for you, that's going to support you in making whatever is up better, because really that's the biggest thing, is choosing to be your own best friend. You want to embody your authentic self and treat yourself with love and kindness as you experience this human experience. So let me get to some comments. Thank you, Jamie. Jesus had a day job too. Dana thought that was funny. I know, I loved that. When Becca shared that with me, I was like, whoa, that's so awesome. Are you light while doing the dishes? I love that. It's true, Dana. Yes, understanding that everything is a part of our experience. So I have a funny little exercise I want to do with you guys. I went to a workshop with Sonia Choquette once, and she started talking about how the ego is going to have these ideas, and they're going to come up, but recognizing that you don't have to attach to them, and recognizing that you can transcend them, like I said, and stay in your authentic self. And she shared the exercise that it's really helpful to disassociate that by identifying your ego thoughts as like a barking dog. So take a moment and think about your ego being just like a yappy dog that always has an opinion. I have a Maltese, her name is Layla, and she's very demanding and she's very yappy, and she just always wants me to know she's there and she's ready for some love. So I kind of channeled her when I was thinking of who would I name my ego as, and I came up with the name Lele. So my ego's name is Lele. So an example of this was the other day I was driving to work and my seat warmers stopped working, and I was just like, oh my goodness, my seat warmers aren't working, what's happening? And then I just took a moment and I was like, listen, Lele, your seat warmers are broken, but is it the end of the world? Do we really have to ruin this moment or just give attention to that? Or can we sit in the gratitude of, I have an awesome car and I had seat warmers, how cool is that, and I can afford to fix them, and just standing in the gratitude of things, but recognizing when Lele, or whatever it is your ego's name were to be, comes up and says things that just aren't your authentic self, because your authentic self is love. Your authentic self is light. Your authentic self is the highest, most exalted version of you. And recognizing that anything that's not that is just Lele, or whatever it is that your yappy dog name would be. So if you guys would, in the comments, let me know if you had to name your ego a yappy dog name to kind of disassociate from it and help you observe when you're having thoughts that don't support you and showing up and being the awesome woman or man or person you are. What would your dog name be? Let's see. Jamie said, my authentic self gets stuck outside by outside influences. Like, stop talking already. I get that, Jamie, which is why it's really powerful to recognize that. And you see that? So naming that is really helpful. What would your yappy dog name be, Lele? Jamie, I'm all stuck with Lele. So tell me, if you had to name what those negative thoughts are, if you had to give them an outside identity, what would that name be? Whatever comes up for the first name. Let's see. Becca said, I called myself a hyperactive chihuahua this morning. I get so excited about life. I need to know when to calm down. and I have 2 Chihuahuas. The rest of it was cut up. Tell me, Becca, what would let's see, my dog name would be Hype. Hey, Hype! I love it. I totally pictured her with like a really sparkly little collar. I love it. Let's see. Jamie said hers would be Mom. So you can recognize that when it's coming, be like, there's Mom again. That is not me. And then redirect that. Be like, okay, what would the authentic me say? What does real Jamie believe? And just kind of letting Mom do her thing. Dogs are going to bark sometimes. You can calm them down, but it might happen. Dana said, mine would be like my nephew Mastiff, Emerson. I love that. So I invite you guys, whenever something does come up and you notice it's a negative thought, it might not even be conscious, which is why I feel like naming it is so powerful, because a lot of times we just have these automatic thoughts, and just recognizing that that's not your authentic self is really, really helpful for that. Sparky, I love that. Taylor says, sometimes little things ignite me and I have to extinguish it. Ooh, I love that visual, Sparky. Recognizing that the ego is just a little spark and you can choose to extinguish that. Shh. Yes, I love it. Ghostbusters. I don't know why I saw Ghostbusters. Luna says her dog's name would be Caesar. I love that, Luna. So whenever you hear those thoughts, be like, Caesar, calm down. Luna's got this. And show up as your authentic self. Ari said Zeus, and he'd say, settle down, Zeus. Brian says Bruiser. We had a Chihuahua, and that was the name. That's awesome. I love that. Bruiser. Bruiser, stop. Stay, Bruiser. No, we're showing up as our best self. I love it. Lustina, I love that, Christina. So we're talking about naming your ego a Yappy Dog name, so you can just recognize when it comes up, observe it, disassociate from it, and just be like, calm down, Lele, which is my Yappy Dog name. Let's see. Christina, Lustina, love it. Right? I love Sparky too. That was a good one, Taylor. Let's see. Hope says Akita Evita, the happy dog from the musical Rent. I love that, Akita Evita. Yes, and that's the thing, like I said, our ego does not have to be our enemy. It's just our funny amigo. It's the Kanye version of us. So recognizing that we don't have to associate with that. We don't have to give it more fire than it needs to. We don't have to give it the focus it seeks. We can honor it, acknowledge it, and be like, I'm going to go in this direction. Yappy, not happy. Oh, the Yappy Dog. Okay, got you, Hope. Thanks, Becca. I'm glad you think this tool's funny. It's really helpful. I feel like it really helps you, disassociate from the ego and not make it an enemy. Just make it, a thing that's there, but it's not your authentic self. Your authentic self is love. Your authentic self is divine source expression. So if divine source expression wants to express itself in whatever way you're feeling called to that day, show up as such. Luna says the little dog, big britches. Yes, I agree. Richard said his is Sappy. Oh, that's cute. Sappy, stop. And be like, Richard's got this. I love the visual. You can either train it or feed it. Yes, it's like the Native American story of the two wolves. Which one will survive? The wolf of fear or the wolf of love? Whichever wolf you feed is the wolf that survives. Something along those stories. I know I'm probably butchering that story, but the gist of it is we have the power. We are the expression of source. And within our own lives, who we choose to show up as is really a choice, and it is a day-to-day choice, and honoring that our best is going to change from moment to moment, but we can still honor our best and show up as that, and still honor the ego, but recognize that it doesn't need to be in the driver's seat. It can be in the back seat. Let's see some more of these. Bob, not really a Yappy Dog name, but a downer doggy name. I love that, Gloria. Yeah, sometimes it's not Yappy. For me, it's Yappy because I have a lot of energy, but sometimes it's just like a really negative, like you said, chill dog, but it's very like reverberating, like very strong sound. So it can be that, and recognizing that energy and being like, that is not Gloria, that is Bob, and choosing to show up as Gloria and recognizing who Gloria truly is. So I love that. Oh, Snappy. I love that, Snappy. Cute. Thanks, Richard. Yes, Snappy or annoyed. Yeah, we can all relate to that, like I was sharing earlier, but just checking ourselves and recognizing that that's a lifelong process. And really with life coaching, like I had shared earlier, recognizing when things are just a thought, like they teach us here at SWIHA, that's just a thought and it doesn't need to have any power over me. And I can choose who I am in this moment and I can show up. And if I do make mistakes, which we're all gonna make mistakes, sometimes Lele shows up and she is running the show and I'm just like, oh my goodness. And that's gonna happen with Snappy or, you know, the Chihuahua or Zeus, you know, but we just have to recognize that it's okay. At any moment, we can choose to take back the reign and choose better, choose again and show up. Oh, I love it. Dana says, try and tell my late dog, Leroy Brown, that he didn't have to be in the driver's seat, LOL. That's funny. He had to sit on my lap. Dogs have gotten more calm and independent as they've grown in my spiritual totem. It's true. And sometimes that's going to happen, and that's a really good point, Dana, is sometimes Leroy, your ego puppy name, is used to being in the driver's seat. So it's going to take some struggle to be like, get off my lap, Leroy, you know? But being committed to that and recognizing that as much as you're used to Leroy taking the lead, now it's my turn. Now it's Dana that's taking the driver's seat. And it might be rough getting Leroy off your lap and he might be on your leg for a little bit. And then next time he sits in the passenger seat before we move him into the back. But it's all a process, and really honoring that process, honoring yourself through that, recognizing that it's a part of the human experience and it is what it is. And it's so beautiful that we do have this opportunity to be who we are in this time and space reality and co-create with the source and the divine and being who we truly are. So really owning that and really owning every part of that, whether that looks like your Yappy Dog leading that day or whether it looks like you were so well meditated and grounded, just showing up. I like that. This is a great analogy because the ego is like the adult side of us, and we have the ability to train that side of us into the ideal ego we shape it to be. Yes, very, very true. Into the ideal animal side. Yes, I agree. And that's, I think, the importance is recognizing that we can train it. And that is very doable. It might take time. Like, it took me a while to get Layla to sit and throw things and have her bring them back to me. It's a process. It takes some time. But recognizing that we're going to be there for ourselves and making that commitment to be there for ourselves and honoring when we do make mistakes and recognizing that I could have showed up better and choosing to show up better and make the next moment better. I really love the idea. I know Tony Robbins says this a lot when he's like, when you're teaching a child how to walk, how many times do they fall before you're like, oh, this one's not a walker, I'm gonna quit teaching him how to walk? We don't do that. We keep trying and we keep trying new things until the child learns how to walk. And it's the same with us. If we have really negative thoughts that really stop us from showing up as who we truly are, recognizing that it's going to be a process. It's going to take some time of seeing Lele a lot and being like, whoa, this girl's running the show. That's okay. Let's start taking our power back little by little and doing things, and eventually you'll realize like, oh, she gets in the back and I don't even have to open the door. She just knows that's her place. And the authentic self leads and the ego can fall behind. Yes, Luna, taking ownership of ourselves is super, super important. So that's pretty much what I want to leave you guys with. Definitely making the commitment to choosing to connect to that authentic part of you. Yes, Gloria, I love that. Failure is a part of success. It truly is. And honoring whatever that is. And when we make mistakes, we do better. When we know better, we do better, like Maya Angelou says. So we definitely want to continue to show up, express ourselves authentically, and if we have a learning opportunity, we have a learning opportunity. It's okay. We're all on this human experience together. And we're light workers and we're healers and we feel called to lead with our hearts. But sometimes that's going to still have a shadow aspect to it. And just loving that shadow part of you and bringing the light out of it will really teach you that no matter what happens and whatever goes on, at the bottom of everything is your true self, and your authentic self is always loving and is always the best you that Source wanted to express itself through. So let it shine, baby. So my final thought for you guys is to remember that you don't have to go at it alone. Remember to summon the higher you. If you're recognizing that you're getting caught up in the old you, in the like petty thoughts or in the negative thoughts or whatever it is that's coming up for you, recognizing that you can call yourself higher. You know, you can call yourself out and be like, that is not us. That might have been us at some point in our lives, but we've evolved past that, and honoring that. So remember, you guys, to be committed to who you truly are and love yourself through every phase of it. Whatever comes up, love yourself through it, because that's really what I feel is the biggest thing that calls us and allows us to show up as our authentic selves, is loving that person when it does show up and recognizing that it might not always be perfect by our human standards, but it's perfect in its imperfection. And when we show up and we do us, it really does inspire others to see that they too can show up in their humanness and know that they're lovable and acceptable just as they are. And you are lovable and acceptable just as you are. So show up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. We have 2 more days of live life coaching, so make sure you tune in tomorrow for Sharon and then Wednesday for Richard, Master Life Coach. So thank you guys so much and have a beautiful rest of the day. Mwah.